Okay, so I think you're probably waiting for Gemini to take notes. But can I still be heard though? Just in case my network has been cut off. Okay, thank you, Miracle. So I'm sure maybe there are a few questions that will be asked, but I'm probably thinking that maybe I do a brief intro of who I am. I think she has like done justice to it in making it very concise. Okay. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I am Mawunyo, and I studied biomedical engineering back at the University of Ghana. And just I think after that I did my national service at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for medical research, and that was because I was still in line with biomedical engineering. So I ventured into a field called bioinformatics, and that's what took me into like medical research for the longest time. But then, as I was doing that, also I worked part time for a company called Fourth IR. So I was doing like that part time work as I was doing my national service, and then eventually transitioned to a full time role as an AI engineer, and eventually got to lead AI engineering there till I eventually left earlier this year in the month of January. So yes, I think I did about 3.5 years as fourth IR before eventually leaving. So now what I am mainly into is focusing mainly on my startup stuff now, which you mentioned as Federica. So I get to do a lot more technical stuff there. And we are essentially building like AI stuff for the poultry space in Africa and beyond. And also, one of the major reasons for actually getting out of industry, aside more focus on my startup, was also trying to go back to school and improve on my skill sets. Yeah, so that is maybe a brief summary of who I am. I'm sure there are a number of questions that will come up that would get me to probably talk a little more. But I hope to like answer as concisely as I can with every question that I have. So I don't know if maybe the moderator would like to take over with us. Taking time. So Aja, are you moderating that, or like that anyone can take a turn asking or contributing something? Can the host hear me? Oh, I've lost you guys. Okay. Emily give a thumbs up. I don't know if there's someone to the host to inquire for, as maybe network is also not so great where she is. But maybe we'll probably open it up if anyone does have any question, maybe till she comes to moderate everything.
Hello, Mawunyo.
Yeah, hello.
Did you say something?
Yes, I was wondering whether if you would like regulate how the questions are asked, or like how we all like talk, so that we don't all like clash, or how exactly we are supposed to go about the session. That's just what I was trying to find out.
Okay, so anybody that has any question could just raise their hands and ask, or send them in the chat.
Okay.
Or you could also start with the questions that I sent to you
Okay.
from the registration.
Okay. Okay. So I think, okay, thank you. So maybe we'll do that. So if you do have any questions, you could just feel confident and ask. I do have like a number of questions here, which I I feel like I should be able to answer. Uh, as we'll try and answer them, yes, as much as we can. But yeah, let's go. But if you do like have any question, like person, maybe a follow up on like any of these questions that has been sent to me, you could just ask, and then I'll try and walk through. Um, I think I should have gone through these questions before, but yeah, let's just go through them together. So the first question I have here is, how can I make use of AI tools as a business administration student? Uh, I feel like that's a very multifaceted question. Like there are so many things you could do with that. So as a student, I think we all know what we could use AI for as students. It definitely helps us with the research that we do. Um, I remember maybe, yes, I think all of us should be able to relate to that more likely. Previously, when we had to do an assignment or something, right? We have to go and do a Google search and read through multiple articles. But now with Gemini embedded in the Google search engine, it makes it much more easier for us to view like concise information, like very precise information at any point in time, and then get the answers that we are looking for as quickly as possible. So I think that's like one very good use of AI to help in like research and studies, and it's like really speeds up stuff. More specifically for business administration, rather unfortunately, I'm not a business administration person, so I can't really tell what business administration is all about. I can explain like business and then administration, and then we'll add a student to it. But I think anything that you set your mind to doing as a business administration student, if you definitely look up what people are doing in the space in AI, you should definitely like see things that are out there that you could probably use. I don't think people do like balancing of books. I think that's an accounting thing. So I think like right now, the focus of AI is not just like broad. We are not just like building AI tools to like for the general user, but like very specific fields are being like gotten into, and like specific tools are being built for that, right? So I think if you actually did a quick Google search now for AI tools that are coming up, probably one was released today specifically for you as a business administration student, I'm sure you come by something. I do know like a few examples, especially like in the legal space and for medicine. I think like there are a number of chatbots that are coming up specifically for those fields, and not even just like the whole thing about chatbots and large language models, but other essential tools that are built upon other AI stuff. So I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, you could maybe clarify in the chat, or like you could raise your hand and ask me further so that I can give specifics on that. I see a question here also that as a beginner entering biomedical engineering and medical biotechnology, what do I need to know? That's a very interesting question. So I think for me, starting biomedical engineering, I I I wanted to do engineering. So anything that would enable me to like set my mind to doing something and getting my hand dirty, I just wanted to do that, right? But not really mechanical. Mechanical was never really my thing because I feel like it requires a lot more manpower, and I just didn't fancy like a lot of mechanical stuff as a then. I think I was really all about the electronic side of stuff, and then the computer side of things, right? So uh, for me, like engineering was like the fun thing for me right after SHS. We all definitely started from a place where when we were in DHS, you're like, okay, what do you want to be? I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a pilot, all sorts of things. But by the time I get to SHS, you know that, okay, maybe this is what I eventually want to transition into. So for me, it was just engineering. But I think I got to really love biology so much in SHS that I wanted that field which merged both biology or medicine and then engineering. So then I chose biomedical engineering, right? Uh, and then the other thing was I knew I didn't really want to work in the hospital, like with fixing medical equipment and stuff. Uh, I think a number of people find that intriguing, but for some reason, I never really fancied that because of, as I mentioned, what I really had interested in, like interesting, which was in the electronics and the computer side of stuff. So that's what got me interested in choosing it at UG and not tech, because as at that time, I think there were the two main institutions offering that. And UG had like a broader range for what's like you're exposed to in biomedical engineering. As to what you need to know before starting the program, I don't think there is any requirements per se. And I'm speaking from the UG perspective. If there is somebody who is doing biomedical engineering from tech, maybe you could clarify. But I think with whatever background you have from SHS with your math and then a bit of biology, I think you're good to go for biomedical engineering. Literally, I think for any course you really want to take in the university, the main thing that you need is like that conviction to to begin the course and the pathway for you, right? You don't need to figure it all out at the very beginning because there's a lot more we definitely get exposed to as you go along. But then you just need to know that, okay, these are the prospects that are open to me once I study biomedical engineering, right? Or whatever course it is. So, um, and you frame the question as like as a beginner, right? I think everyone entering the university for the first time to take a course is literally a beginner, right? Even the lectures that we have are sometimes not even specialized in the courses that they take sometimes, right? So it comes down to you and what you are studying while you're in school, right? Saying that, okay, this is what I want to eventually do with this degree, and then finding yourself in the right rooms. And I think one of the channels is like sessions like this, where you get to talk to people who have probably been like gone through the system, like had something in mind, and eventually they got to a certain point. So I think for me, having sessions like that with people really, really helped. Um, Probably Emily has a follow up. Um, so maybe I'll answer that and then continue the questions that we have. So he said, how exactly do you find out which school offers more when it comes to a particular course? So for every single school, right? They they want people to come, so they have catalogs, they have videos, right? I think Academic City is doing like a very good job now promoting their engineering departments with like projects that they do. So for every department or course that you would find interest in, it's just about you doing like a quick search, like a quick search on that particular course and speaking to people. I think that's like the really valid one of them was important and valid things to do. Talk to people who are enrolled in those programs. Sometimes you don't necessarily have somebody in your close circle that's maybe offering that course, but you could ask like somebody that, oh, do you know somebody in KNUST? Do you know somebody in Academic City, somebody in Ashesi, somebody in University of Ghana, somebody in UCC that you could connect me with, who is probably in the engineering department, who is in the mathematics department, right? And maybe by finding that person who is in one department, they can link you up with somebody in another department because um, for those who are in the university, like us at this time, you will definitely make a lot of friends when you're in the university, right? So, for example, like I had a lot of people from the social sciences and stuff like that, right? So if somebody approaches me now and says that, wait, I want to study French, like the university, I can definitely like link you up with a friend who I believe would give a better advice than me, right? So I think that's a critical thing. Talking to people who have taken the who have or are taking the course, because they will tell you the type of courses they offer in that particular course, and what the prospects are after that. Yeah. But aside that, also taking a look at like the catalog or the university manuals, I think will help. So in the same manuals that you have the cutoff points for the various courses, you would in that manual see the courses that are offered, right? So example, for biomedical engineering, I realized that they were doing like a number of things in there that tech was not offering. So I know Ken UST was offering like something mainly tailored towards clinical engineering. So you eventually work in industry. So I don't know whether if that has over the years, but that if it doesn't also you could just ask a follow-up question. Yeah. So I think the other question I have here is how can AI be used to improve the biomedical engineering sector? Ha. How can AI be used? Those questions, if I like, give what me examples, but I think I cover everything. And specifically for biomedical engineering, I don't know if the person is asking this in relation to a final year project or something, but yeah, if you do spend some time visiting, let's even like limit it to a hospital setting, right? If you spend some time visiting a hospital, you realize there are so many inefficiencies in the system. So, for example, our final year project was based on cardiac arrhythmia. So we looked at, okay, doctor ratio patients is this number to this number, right? So you have a lot more patients than you can have doctors, but then you have like doctors being some of the most overworked people because of how like manual a lot of systems are in Ghana and beyond actually. So what we said to do was, okay, can we use AI to automate the reading and diagnosis of ECG signals, right? And that was because like for every single one of us on the team had like different backgrounds, so that's why we eventually chose that. But that is one way to look at it. So you find like problems in the medical space, and I think for every single problem that you have in there, AI has something to offer. Um, mm, let me skew this to like even another with the field I am in currently, which is like mechatronics or more specifically robotics. We one core research now for the biomedical space in terms of AI is robotic surgery, right? So having surgeries being performed by robots and assisting the doctor, right? So now instead of you having like 10 people in the room conducting a surgery, you could have just one doctor sitting behind like a machine and carrying out an entire surgery, and it's done with like great precision. So, and AI comes into play in that like very much. Um, so you have like computer vision coming into play. You being able to take a camera feed and saying that okay, you want to make an incision at a particular point. Um, uh, you like all the image processing that goes into that. It's like a lot of AI engineering, right? Or you could even, I think there are a lot of startups that are trying to enter this space where in the medical space, there is a particular kind of language they use. Um, even when the doctors like are writing drugs for you, they said doctors have a kind of handwriting which only they and the pharmacists understand, right? So the medical space has a particular kind of language that most patients don't really understand, right? And in the same way, when patients are supposed to communicate to doctors, they have to like find a way of translating that. So you say, I have a headache, but they have a way of, if there's a medical person here, maybe they can give us more precise terms, like there is some, what's inflammation, whatever. So one thing people are doing with AI is it's kind of like a translator, but it's still English. So find a way of getting those technical jargons in a natural way to be communicated to patients, right? So I think there are a number of startups I've seen working on that, not just in Ghana. AI biomedical. Uh, then again, in my space, which I was working in previously, bioinformatics. Uh, in bioinformatics, for those who do not know what the field is about, it's mainly about genetic data. So as processing, like, let's say we take a sample and like DNA stuff. As at the time I was working on Uguchi, okay, I think I did mine like prior to that time. So that was like the peak of COVID. Yeah, when I was doing my internship. So example, when the samples for COVID-19 were being taken, they were processed at Noguchi. So we take the swabs, it's brought there, then we have like machines which are sequencers, right? So that reads your DNA, and from that we do like some matching and stuff. It's a lot of data processing. So we do like some putting some pipelines together and stuff to process like such data. And AI also gets critical in like that space because it helps us with how we analyze this data and put together things like phylogenetic trees and stuff. Still in bioinformatics also, there is that branch of computational drug discovery. So for those who want to do pharmacy, who are still interested in AI, there is the way drugs are discovered and like they go through tests has been like a very long pipeline for the longest time. But AI is quickly shortening that because of like its ability to process like tons of data. So it's able to like do like pattern recognition and stuff, and then we're able to do like some docking and test drugs like in simulations, all in like AI simulation environments, right? Even before like spending millions of dollars. So now it cuts budget, it cuts time, and AI is like really helping in that space also, and it's still like in the medical space. So I think that's a few examples to cover for that. If you're inspired, you could choose any of that and still use AI to like do great stuff in the biomedical space, right? Okay, so Richard is asking that for a biomedical engineering student aspiring to build a career in AI, what would be the ideal learning and development roadmap? Okay, so what would the ideal learning and development roadmap look like? Okay, Richard, ideal, ideal roadmap. Um, I don't think there is an ideal roadmap. Personally, for me, personally, sorry, personally, I feel like uh, everything is really based on interest and passion in any moment, right? So yeah, biomedical engineering students, you want to build a career in AI. Maybe the first thing is first learn about what AI can do. I think related to the last question, right? So just go online, um, watch a lot more videos. I think for our generation, we consume a lot more comedy and stuff compared to like literal stuff. So we'll call it like the signal to noise ratio. So you actually have to reduce that noise a bit and like put in a lot more signal. Like you all need to put in a lot more signal. So your YouTube feed, your TikTok feeds, things like that, Instagram, like try and make that algorithm skew things about AI, right? So listening a lot more to people who who have careers in AI and seeing like where they came from. I think that really helps, or literally what they are doing now. So by learning that, you eventually get to know like bits and pieces about what's like this entire thing about AI is. I think for many of us, AI is still like ChatGPT or Gemini, right? But even before like this whole LLM craze like started, for most of us, what got us so much interested in AI was like through data science, right? So having to go to PyCon and having somebody do a presentation on data like analysis using things like Seaborn, like creating charts like Matplotlib and stuff like that. Like that's what got some of us excited about AI to begin with. So let's like people talk about the research work they are doing or startups they are building or maybe just projects they are building like as hobbyists with I think it's a good way, like on YouTube. I even still do that as at now, fine, because the field is quickly evolving, right? So I think it's a good starting point. And then you can eventually, once you find like that niche that you want to start from, because as I mentioned, like AI is a bit broad. So if you find like ChatGPT like very fancy, and you want to build your own like ChatGPT, you want to build your own large language model, um, train it from scratch, then you can start tailoring like everything towards like natural language processing. Um, you get into the field, like take a Coursera course on like natural language processing. I think maybe the very good recommendation I'll give to you for a course to take if you want to build a career in AI um, is it by Deep Learning? I think by deeplearning.ai, Andrew Ng, right? He has a very good course on AI stuff. So there's a specialization, there's a machine learning specialization. I think he has either 5 or 6 courses. It's a very good one. And then you could then take the deep learning specialization. So that exposes you to the underlying math also, um, with AI stuff. I think that's like a very good starting point. Yeah, so maybe let's make it that. So do the machine learning specialization by Andrew Ng. Watch a lot more videos of with research in the space, so that you are still abreast with what is going on. And then you could also do like Medium articles. Just build out projects as much as you can. Just build out as many projects as much as you can. The reason why I said watch a lot more videos is because for some of those videos that you watch, they implement projects and like share source codes with you and how to go about it. So you can build out those projects, tweak them, and that is how like you boost your understanding of some of these things. So I think that's the way you can build a career in AI. For some of us, we eventually got it to be a career, right? So it's not the ideal way, right? But eventually got it to be a career because as we were learning from like the videos we were watching and the courses we are taking, we eventually like participated in a lot more hackathons. So that's like one way, right? So participating in hackathons, because that in that case you get your work gets criticized. If you're not like me and like to like come out in the public and like really speak a lot, you could like share your stuff on LinkedIn for people to like try them out and things like that. I think that's also a way for people to give you feedback on like the AI that you are building and how relevant it is to them, and also how safe it is to them. So learn by building. Maybe that's the final word I would really give on that. Learn by building. Be exposed to stuff out there and just build. Yeah. Um, okay, Deborah, what would I recommend to a BME student who is interested in biomechanics and underrepresented BME field in Ghana, as well as AI? I don't know if the as well as AI is like AI biomechanics are both underrepresented, or but maybe let's just answer the biomechanics part. So I think biomechanics is a very interesting field. At a point in my life, I wanted to purely enter like biomechanics. Um, but I think if you do want to go into biomechanics, just like study it. Okay, so only biomechanics. Yeah, so I'd say that unfortunately the university system does not really expose you to as much technical stuff. Rather, unfortunately, right? For a lot more public universities, I think even for the privates, with the way the classroom setting is sometimes, we don't really get to be hands-on on stuff. So we work on projects in teams, and sometimes the what you need to learn from that, you don't really glean as much information from that as much as you would. So I would just like I mentioned for Richard, I think you should expose yourself a lot more to what is out there, right? For biomechanics. I can't really speak to a lot more like resources that I could like just hand over to you. But I think when I wanted to do specifically signal processing, right? So like biosignal processing, and like got very interested in that field. One thing I did was to get free PDFs that were available on like those particular courses, right? So I was not just interested in biosignals, but mainly bioinstrumentation, what we call like bioinstrumentation or medical instrumentation. So I spent a lot more time reviewing articles and like studying books from people from like there were like they lectured with this number of votes and stuff. And some of these things, sometimes you read them and they are very abstract. But fortunately, today we have AI. So once you read something like that and you don't get it, you can always put it into ChatGPT or Gemini, right? Or Claude, just for you to get a better understanding of what is being explained. I think sitting down to try field here, but it would surprise you that there are a few industries still in Ghana that are doing something in the biomechanics space, right? Or if you're also interested in research, I know a professor at the University of Ghana who is doing like BME, like biomechanics like research and like really going into that, right? So I think if you want to go into that space, it's you're more than free to do so, and it's good to say that, okay, this is what I want to do. Now you zone in on learning what you can learn from that field, right? So as I said, get some research papers people have posted, get the books, right? Maybe for biomechanics, I think for biomechanics, you do something like studying um, the gait of people. I remember gait analysis. Even there's a forget about biomechanics, is not gait analysis, which got me interested in it, especially because of how I could see it relating to sports medicine. And I know you can cash out from the sports industry. So doing like gait analysis, you will definitely find videos on it. I think last year I chanced upon work somebody did at the intersection of biomechanics and AI. So the person saw how like in the Western world for athletes, right? You know, biomechanics is used in that space, right? So for athletes, they have like very fancy equipment, like stuff they attach to the bodies of like these athletes we used to measure like their gaits, right? So how well is Messi kicking the ball? You can use biomechanics to analyze that, right? But then in a place like Ghana, as Deborah, as you are saying, you don't really have some of these fancy equipment. But this person built a project where they just use the camera, and there is this thing in AI and specifically computer vision where we are able to actually do something called pose estimation, right? So you're able to find, like, if I like, I'm able to find the knuckles in my fingers and stuff like that, right? Because AI has been trained to be able to identify that from images. So the person used like a simple camera and was able to use that to build out an application that runs its own like AI model to do this pose estimation for a biomechanics related application. So I think it's something you could look at. Some of these things that people are doing, I find them very interesting, and I think you should be able to do it. Yes, it's underrepresented in Ghana. I'll repeat, it's underrepresented in Ghana, but I do believe where the world has gotten to, we are now like globally exposed. What is preventing you from getting a job like out there with some firm that is like really focused on biomechanics? So I think if you want to zone in, let's just zone in and get the like clear pathway, like do job applications, get an internship, a conference. But I think conferences are one way students are really getting exposed to a lot of stuff. If I knew this back in the university days, I would probably have applied for a lot more internship opportunities outside. But you could try that also. Find out biomechanics companies. They have like career pages. Go to those career pages. Are they looking for interns? Cold email somebody in that company and say that I just want to study. Like I want to know what tools I should be exposed to, what tools I should learn. Using your student email now, go and download those tools. If they have students licenses, get like a full version to use as a student, learn them, thoroughly learn them. That's how some of us really learned electronics because you got free licenses. And I think you'll do great. Yeah. Okay, Richard, a follow-up question. Let me take a breather here. is you mentioned that I should learn by building more. What would differentiate a meaningful AI project from simply completing an online tutorial? Yeah, so this is this is one thing I always have an issue with back like when I was in Forta, when we do interviews, right? And then we we ask people who are coming for like senior roles and like okay, so right now what have you built? And then it's all online tutorials. That is where you lose me personally. Um because online tutorials, yeah, literally following somebody like step by step, right? Which is also good because if you are like learning something new, you begin like step by step. But I also mentioned that part where you learn to tweak what they have done, right? But aside that, I believe for all of us, even gathered on this call, there is one thing we all need to learn, which is the ability to find out problems in our society and being able to solve them with the things that we know. Or if even if we don't know so much about a particular thing, but know that it has the ability to solve a problem, and know that we have the ability to learn that like with given time, then I believe like we need to like study and then try and solve that problem. So for anybody who is even learning how to program, we tell you that okay, go to lead code, go to is it project Euler or something. It's been a while, but like go on there, look at the problems that are presented to you, solve them with code, like get your brain thinking, right? So aside like the online tutorial that you have, or like that's all the online tutorials you have, are you able to think about a problem around you and try to solve that, or not even necessarily a problem, but you just find something fancy you want to build out? I think one of the things I wanted to build out with AI was like a way to a way to automate like PowerPoint presentations I had. I was like, okay, can I just apply to this? Okay, can I apply to that? Can I apply to you get it? So you just let your mind run wild. I think a lot of times as developers or programmers, the most meaningful times are not the times we spend behind our PC, but the time we spend thinking, lying in bed, like taking a shower, walking to class, or like doing something, right? Those are the most critical times for us because it's like we also solve them. So I think that's how you can you can really create meaningful projects, right? Just look around you. What problems can you solve with AI? Even if they are not really problems, but even if it's a game that you can put together with AI that's going to do something, you could literally just create those things. And I believe that's what gives you like more exposure and the ability to become like a master at what you do. So um if you just follow the tutorials, you may not encounter as many bugs as you should. But then once you are set to doing something on like by yourself from scratch, right? Like trying to solve a problem, even with the things that you've learned from different places, piecing them together, you may run into unique problems. And that's what makes somebody a master. The ability to see a problem and say, wait, I've encountered this before. This is how to solve it. Right. So I believe that is the best way to go about that, right, Richard? Yeah. Um. Okay, so I'll continue with the questions here. If there are any other questions, I'll see them in the chat. Uh, how can I build AI systems without spending money? Wow, I want to know the person who's saying this question. But how can I build how can I build AI systems without spending money? It's like they have to spend money for everything, you know. Or so you can't build AI without spending money. Maybe to answer this question, the best way I can answer it is maybe to share some tools that you could use. So I think as an AI engineer, one of the most critical things to be exposed to would be Google Colab. Google Colab has saved a lot of us like tons of resources, right, and money, because starting off, some of us had like an 8 gig RAM computer with very limited hard disk space. So we couldn't really like train stuff like on our local machines. But with Colab, you have access to GPUs, when they started off, they had like very limited like GPUs you could use, but eventually it started increasing. Like you could get access to A100s and like all the L4s and fancy stuff on there. So I think Google Colab is a way it's free. It's free. Google Colab is free. So you could use Google Colab and you don't spend money on training AI models. If you need like longer compute time, I think they just last I checked it was like 9.99 on a pay-as-you-go plan, or there's a 99.99 plan. Aside Google Colab, I think Kaggle also offers like a good environment to like train stuff. Kaggle, Kaggle. Aside Kaggle, also you could try let's say you built like some AI stuff and you want to deploy it. I think if you use like GCP, that's Google Cloud Platform, you could get like, hey, sorry, Google is not sponsoring this, but at least you're using Google Meet. So, and since Gemini is listening to our conversation, let me promote Google a lot more. But yeah, you could use GCP to like host your models. Like when you quickly put together something like MLflow or something, I think you could host like your stuff there at a very minimal cost. Yeah, you could also like host locally, depending on what you are doing, right? So if you have a very good machine, you could always like deploy stuff locally or get a Raspberry Pi or something and deploy on it and then use ngrok to expose it to the internet so that people can access it. So that's not just local hosts, right? So yeah, I think you could build AI systems without spending money. There are a lot more tools you could use. If you want like access to like an LLM for like an application you are doing, I think you have some there. You don't want to pay ChatGPT for API tokens and stuff like that. You could use Olama to host like a local model and run stuff like that. So I think there are a number of tools you can always do without spending money. Just do a search. I don't just tell ChatGPT I don't want to spend 1 CD on deploying an AI project. What tools can I use? There are a lot of open source tools out there and platforms that I can host on at least for a limited period and then get by. Okay. So I think this is the last question I have here. I don't know if there's any other, but the last question I have here is what does it take to become an AI engineer? What does it take? What does it take? I think it takes curiosity, one, and sitting for long hours. So if you're sitting for long hours, just like at least figure stuff out. I think it's not really just for like being an AI engineer, but maybe being a all right, and you at least sitting down to say you want to study what is new out there, what are people building, how can I adopt this new programming language, this new framework that has been created. I mean, someone says that I've been using pip for the longest time, so because something else has come, I'm used to pip, so I'm just going to stay with that. But you may be missing out on like new technologies that is like bringing about more efficiency in the space and stuff like that. So curiosity and the ability to really sit down and continue being relevant, I feel like is really what you need if you want to be an AI engineer. The people don't really like the math part with AI engineering, but I believe like the math and statistics part is really helpful, especially because you have to be processing a lot of like the data. So one thing you will find in Ghana, if you are working from Ghana, even if you are working for a company outside, I'm saying this because like with Fourth Era, we still experience that a lot more because of like the space we work in, you don't really have as much talent as you think there should be sometimes. So you have like limited number of people to work on something. So you would have a team working on a project. You would think, oh, okay, we can have like a data scientist who would help with like the data collection and the cleaning and all the pre-processing and stuff before passing it on to. But as an AI engineer, you would definitely have to like learn all this thing. In fact, it will extend to you learning maybe mobile app development, you learning like literally you becoming a full stack engineer. So I think and it doesn't hurt. Like it literally doesn't hurt to know some of these things, right? Because if I'm serving an AI model to somebody who is building like a fast API application, like on the back end, at least if I have a fair idea about how fast API works, it helps me better um, build out that AI model and serve it, right? So I think it's critical for you to like keep learning, learn the math and start behind some of these things. Just keep being curious and just like staying relevant in the space. AI is moving fast, so you need to also stay relevant in the space, right? Don't get stuck on what you learned years ago about supervised learning or unsupervised learning. Like learn what is new in the space. Right now, there's so much hype around reinforcement learning. Learn, okay, like try and get your hands on with that, like with as little time as you have, and like just keep practicing, I would say. Okay, you didn't mention about data science too. Do you think it's an important step to take before entering into AI? Yeah, so I think that's what I just answered in the previous one. I think it's a plus. It is definitely a plus if you are able to know like these critical things when it comes to data and how to see them. I think as an AI engineer, you definitely start playing around with a lot of data science stuff. Maybe you'll not go so much into like data science and like data engineering, right? But just knowing a few things in it doesn't hurt, because AI engineering would encompass ML like engineering, right? So it would encompass ML. And with ML stuff, you realize that ML is sitting on a lot of statistics, right? So all the mean and mode stuff that you've been learning back in school is what is being used to build like these statistical models, which are like the ML models that you see, right? So as an AI engineer, if you don't understand like these data science principles, I think it gets a lot more difficult. And you're not understanding how that data is actually being served to you, what is going through, makes it a lot more difficult for you working with it, right? But if you start getting some weird results from like your model training, so let's say you built a neural network to identify, one of the most common projects you would find is identifying between cats and dogs. And like now you've ingested like the data, right? But then now it is behaving in a very weird way when you show it a different image. You understanding how that data came to you and what that data, the process it went through, will let you know, okay, maybe this is too small of a size for like my neural network. Maybe it's much more difficult actually distinguishing, because even when I look at it with my eyes as a human being, I can't see it. Like maybe the pixels are too large, something. And you can even put in greater efficiency when you learn some of these like data science like principles, because maybe when we rather work with grayscale, we've reduced like the um the number of how do I put this, like channels. You're no longer working with RGB, we are doing this or that, right? I think especially sorry, I'm using a lot of computer vision examples, because I think that's like the most interesting field. That's what lured some of us into it in the first place. So I think having a really deep understanding of data helps you become a better AI engineer. So yes, you should definitely give it a shot if like in your career, like towards being an AI engineer. Yeah, I think you should definitely do that. Okay, I think that's about it. I don't think anyone has any other question, but if you do, you could send them in. Yeah, yeah, most welcome, Richard. Um, yeah, so maybe thank you very much for your questions. This has been exciting. I thought I would speak a lot more about my journey and stuff, but I guess you had really exciting questions on your mind. And yeah, you are doing like great stuff with the examples and stuff you are mentioned. So I'm pretty excited for what you guys are and will be building, and would definitely look to chatting a lot more with you. If we do meet at a conference or something somewhere, definitely say hi. If you mention your name, I'll probably like say, wait, I saw like Kevin on a call like sometime back. So yeah, or Miracle, we would definitely see it. So yeah, great chatting with you. If there are no other questions, maybe I'll hand over to the host now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mawunyo.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? So it seems there are no more questions. Well, I just have a few announcements. So the very first one is that the robotics bootcamp that we're going to have, which was supposed to start on 27 July, has been postponed, and the new date would be communicated very soon. And then we also have, this year, we will also be having Tech and Beyond Expo, the second edition. The dates for that would also be communicated. So let's all be on standby for that as well. So that's all I have today. And I'm going to send the link for ITL so that those who are not on the WhatsApp group can join. And you can also follow us on our various social media platforms. So this is the link. Thank you all for joining today's session. So we'll meet again next week for another session. Bye. Thank you once again, Mawunyo.
Welcome.